Hey coin enthusiasts, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something truly special. We're uncovering the four most valuable and expensive US ultra-rare wheat pennies. True prized treasures that keep captivating enthusiasts. From wartime mysteries to stunning varieties in uncirculated condition, these cents are a tangible connection to the past. If you love history, rarity, and coins that command thousands, you're in for a treat. Let's dive in. First up, few coins spark the imagination of collectors, quite like the ultra-rare 1942 wheat penny without a mint mark, a truly captivating piece that continues to electrify the numismatic world. This small copper cent is more than spare change. It's a prized treasure that captivates enthusiasts with its blend of wartime mystery, subtle rarity, and undeniable charm. For collectors and investors alike, the 1942 Philadelphia issue in top-tier grades represents a tangible connection to the past, and current market demand proves it. When a near-perfect example surfaces, it doesn't just sell, it commands attention, igniting bidding wars and reminding us why Lincoln wheat cents remain the cornerstone of American coin collecting. The 1942 Lincoln wheat penny was struck during one of the most pivotal years in U.S. history, as the nation had fully entered World War II following Pearl Harbor. Minted at the Philadelphia Mint, hence the lack of a mint mark. This cent was part of the final full year of standard 95% copper, 5% tin, and zinc composition before the wartime switch to zinc-coated steel in 1943. Over 657 million were produced in Philadelphia alone, making circulated examples common. Yet within that massive mintage lies a fascinating and highly sought-after piece. The elusive 1942 transitional error struck on a bronze planchet left over from 1943 preparations, and the revered 1942 double die obverse variety. These coins are a tangible connection to the past. Minted as copper was being diverted for shell casings and wiring, and they commemorate the resilience of the U.S. Mint during wartime production pressures. The design itself is iconic and instantly recognizable to collectors worldwide. The obverse, sculpted by Victor David Brenner, features Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile with the motto, "In God We Trust," arcing above, liberty to the left, and the date 1942 to the right, with no mint mark beneath the date, confirming its Philadelphia origin. The reverse displays two stylized wheat stalks framing the denominations 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum centered at the top. Each cent weighs 3.11 grams and measures 19 millimeters in diameter, with a rich reddish-brown luster in high-grade conditions that makes it truly pop. The most desirable variety, the 1942 double die obverse, shows dramatic doubling in God We Trust, liberty, and the date, a striking visual flaw that transforms an ordinary cent into a prized treasure. In uncirculated condition, especially graded MS67RD or higher, the coin's original mint red color and sharp wheat details are simply breathtaking. While a 1942 Philadelphia wheat penny is common in worn grades, finding one in pristine, gem-uncirculated condition is the real challenge that drives collector demand. The rarity explodes with specific varieties and errors. The 1942 D over horizontal D is not applicable here, but the 1942 double die obverse with no mint mark is scarce, with only a few dozen known in mint state. Even rarer is the 1942 bronze cent struck on a leftover planchet. Fewer than 10 authenticated examples exist. Condition is everything. A coin grading MS65RD might be attainable, but MS67RD and above are condition rarities, as most 1942 cents saw heavy circulation during the war years. For the ultra-rare 1942 wheat penny without a mint mark, value hinges on variety and grade. A standard 1942 in uncirculated MS65RD typically trades for $300 to $1,000, reflecting steady appreciation trends for high-grade copper. Step up to the 1942 double die obverse variety in uncirculated condition, and market value jumps dramatically. Examples graded MS64RD have realized $1,000 to $3,500 at major auctions, while a superb MS66RD can bring $5,000 to $8,000 depending on eye appeal and color. The true heavyweight is the 1942 bronze transitional error. Though most known are from Denver, a Philadelphia example would command six figures, with one MS62BN specimen selling for over $250,000. Factors like historical importance, visual appeal, and the Lincoln Cent's broad collector base boost its value, and prices have shown steady appreciation trends over the last decade as more collectors chase condition census coins. For collectors pursuing this prized treasure, prioritize high-grade or certified coins from PCGS or NGC. Authentication is non-negotiable, especially for the double-die variety or potential errors. When inspecting, look closely at the date and motto for clear, separated doubling on the 1942 double-die obverse. A loupe or microscope helps. Always purchase from reputable dealers or established auctions like Heritage or Stack's Bowers to avoid altered or counterfeit pieces. Proper storage is critical. Keep your scent in non-PVC, inert protective holders and avoid unnecessary handling, as fingerprints can damage the delicate red surfaces. The 1942 wheat penny without a mint mark stands as a perfect blend of history, artistry, and rarity, cementing its status as a prized collectible and strong investment for discerning numismatists. Whether you're chasing the dramatic 1942 double-die obverse variety in uncirculated condition or simply appreciate the challenge of finding a near-perfect example, this scent delivers lasting value and appeal to numismatists worldwide. For collectors, adding this captivating piece is more than a purchase. It's a rewarding addition to any collection, one that continues captivating enthusiasts and appreciating in both significance and market strength year after year. And secondly, we're holding something truly special in our hands. The most valuable and expensive United States ultra-rare wheat penny from the year 1940 with no mint mark. This isn't just another old cent you'd find in your change jar. This is a prized treasure that continues captivating enthusiasts decades after it left the Philadelphia Mint, a tangible connection to the past that blends history, artistry, and serious collector demand. If you've ever wondered what makes a simple Lincoln cent command thousands of dollars, stick around, because by the end of this video you'll understand exactly why this 1940 issue in top condition is one of the most sought-after coins in all of numismatics. And yes, we're going deep on its worth, its story, and what to look for. So let's get started. The 1940 wheat penny with no mint mark is a fascinating and highly sought-after piece in numismatics, and it's easy to see why it captivates enthusiasts from casual hobbyists to advanced investors. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which used no mint mark on its cents, this coin represents the final year of relative calm before America's entry into World War II reshaped everything, including our coinage. While over 586 million were minted, making circulated examples common, the story changes completely when we talk about condition rarities and elusive varieties. For collectors, the appeal lies in that dual identity. It's an accessible date that everyone recognizes, yet in gem uncirculated grades with full red luster, it transforms into a prized treasure. Its status as a cornerstone of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, combined with current market demand for top-grade copper, ensures this 1940 cent remains one of the most actively chased dates at auctions and shows. To understand the 1940 wheat penny, you have to step back into 1940 itself, a year suspended between the Great Depression's end and the global storm of World War II. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was running at full capacity, producing cents for a recovering economy where every penny still mattered at the corner store. This was the 32nd year of Victor David Brenner's iconic Lincoln design, and the coinage was still struck in the classic 95% copper, 5% tin, and zinc bronze composition that gave wheat cents their warm, reddish glow. There were no commemorative events tied directly to the cent that year, but the coin is a tangible connection to the past, minted as Europe was already at war and America was preparing its arsenal of democracy. Over $500 million were struck in Philadelphia alone, meant for commerce, not collectors. The design of the 1940 wheat penny is iconic, and in high-grade conditions, its visual appeal is simply breathtaking. On the obverse, you have Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln in profile, facing right, exuding quiet dignity. Arcing above his head is the national motto, "In God We Trust," with liberty tucked to the left behind his shoulder and the date, 1940, boldly to the right. Because it was struck in Philadelphia, there is no mint mark beneath the date, a key detail that identifies it instantly. Flip it over, and you see the beloved wheat reverse that gives the series its nickname. Two ornate wheat stalks curving along the rim, framing the denomination 1 cent and United States of America in the center. At the top, E pluribus unum ties it all together. The coin measures 19 millimeters across, weighs 3.11 grams, and in full red uncirculated condition. The fields can flash with original mint luster that makes the wheat grains and Lincoln's hair detail pop. For variety hunters, the 1940 double die obverse, though scarce, shows noticeable doubling in the date and motto, a distinctive artistic quirk that adds serious desirability. Now let's talk rarity, because that's where the 1940 no-mint mark scent goes from common to captivating. With a mintage of 586,810,000, you'd think they'd be everywhere, and in circulated grades they are. But the challenge of finding pristine examples is what drives collector demand through the roof. Most 1940 scents were spent, saved in jars, corroded, or cleaned, so true gem examples are condition rarities. In grades of MS65 red, they're scarce. In MS66 red, they're tough. And in MS67 red or higher, they are exceptionally rare, with PCGS and NGC combined population reports showing only a few dozen. The survival rate in full red, uncirculated, with no spots or carbon flecks is tiny because copper is reactive. It tones, it spots, it dulls. So why does this coin stand out in the Wheat Penny series, a series already packed with legends? Collector demand comes down to three things: history, condition, and competition. The 1940 cent is the perfect type coin. It's from the classic bronze era, before wartime steel, and it's affordable enough in lower grades that millions of collectors own one. Let's get to the part everyone wants: current market value in today's dollar terms. For a standard 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny in circulated grades, we're talking 3 to 25 cents, nothing to write home about. But in excellent condition, the numbers climb fast. A choice uncirculated MS64 red example typically brings $40 to $80 at auction or through reputable dealers. Move up to MS65 RD, and you're looking at $150 to $300, depending on eye appeal. The real money is in the condition census coins. MS66 RD examples have sold for $700 to $1,500, and true MS67 RD pieces have realized $3,000 to $8,000 in recent years, with one exceptional example crossing $10,000 due to blazing luster and spot-free surfaces. Now, if you have the 1940 double die obverse variety in uncirculated condition, the price range shifts dramatically. MS63 RD examples start around $1,000 to $2,000, while MS65 RD can command $4,000 to $8,000, driven by strong auction results and private sales. Factors like historical importance, visual appeal, and the sheer number of Lincoln collectors boost its value, and we've seen steady appreciation trends over the last decade, especially for coins with original red color. If you're hunting this prized treasure, here are collecting tips that can save you money and heartache. First, prioritize high-grade or certified coins. Raw gems are risky because color and surfaces are everything with copper. Stick to PCGS or NGC encapsulation and learn the difference between red, red-brown, and brown designations. Full red coins carry the premium. When inspecting, use a loupe and focus on the high points of Lincoln's cheek and the wheat lines. Any rub or spot kills the grade. For the double die variety, check the date, Liberty. And in God we trust for clear, separated doubling, not strike doubling. Purchase only from reputable dealers or major auctions like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections, and always compare recent comps. The 1940 wheat penny with no mint mark is a perfect blend of history, artistry, and rarity, reinforcing its status as a prized collectible and strong investment for anyone building a Lincoln cent set. The appeal to collectors is universal and enduring, and its lasting value is proven by decades of steady appreciation trends. Whether you're filling an album hole or competing for a registry award, this scent is a rewarding addition to your collection, and one that will keep captivating enthusiasts worldwide for generations to come. And thirdly, we're pulling one of the most misunderstood coins in all of numismatics out of the shadows. The 1944 Denver minted Lincoln wheat penny, with the D mint mark, in a condition most collectors overlook, scratched and toned. At first glance, a damaged, discolored cent might seem like pocket change, but in the world of ultra-rare wheat pennies, story and variety trump perfection every time. This is a coin born in the final full year of World War II, struck when the Denver Mint was running 3 shifts to keep up with a wartime economy, and it's a tangible connection to the past that still captivates enthusiasts today. What makes this specific 1944 D so extraordinary isn't just its date, It's how survival rate, strike quality, collector demand, and the right kind of error can turn a circulated, imperfect cent into a prized treasure. To understand the 1944 D, we have to set the scene. The United States in 1944 was all in on the war effort. D-Day had just turned the tide in Europe. Factories were converted to munitions, and every ounce of copper was still considered a strategic material. The year prior, the Mint had switched to zinc-coated steel cents to save copper for shell casings, but by 1944 they returned to a bronze composition using recycled shell cases, 95% copper, 5% zinc, no tin. That's the historical backdrop for this coin. A cent literally made from the battlefield, struck in Denver for the Western states. The Lincoln Wheat Cent series itself began in 1909, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Brenner's design was revolutionary for its time, the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, and by 1944 it was already a 35-year-old workhorse of American commerce, beloved for its simplicity and dignity. The design is iconic and instantly familiar, which is part of why collectors chase it. On the obverse, Brenner's right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln dominates, with "In God We Trust" arcing above, Liberty to the left, and the date 1944 to the right. Tucked below the date is the small, hand-punched D Mint mark, identifying Denver as the production facility. The reverse is pure Americana. 2 wheat stalks curving along the rim, framing 1 cent, and United States of America, with the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, at the top. Every detail was cut into master dies by the Mint's engraving department, and those dies were then used to strike millions of planchets. But minting in 1944 was not a delicate process. Wartime die stress was extreme. Dies were pushed far beyond their normal life to meet demand, and the Denver Mint was striking cents at over 750 coins per minute. Now let's talk numbers, because official mintage numbers alone do not determine rarity. The Denver Mint struck 430,578,000 cents in 1944, a huge figure that suggests commonness. And for a standard 1944 D in circulated grade, it is common, often worth only a few cents over face. But rarity in numismatics is really about survival rate combined with collector demand for specific attributes. How many survived with sharp strikes from fresh dies? How many escaped cleaning, corrosion, or damage over 80 years? And most importantly, how many were struck with major varieties? The 1944 D is known for several. The D/S repunched mint mark, where a Denver D was punched over an earlier San Francisco S. The 1944 D/S over mint mark, a dramatic transitional error, and various double die obverse showing hub doubling in the date and lettering. There are also off-center strikes, die cracks, and the rare wood grain improper alloy mix from recycled shell cases. This is where we need to understand how minting errors occur, because that's the engine behind the value. During die creation, a working hub impresses the design into a working die multiple times. If the hub shifts between impressions, you get hub doubling, the cause of doubled die varieties. In 1944, Denver Mint marks were still hand-punched into each working die. If the engraver's first punch was misaligned, he'd punch again, creating a repunched mint mark, or, if the wrong mint's punch was used first, an over mint mark. Wartime die stress made things worse. Dies developed cracks that transferred as raised lines on the coin, and worn dies produced weak strikes with mushy details. Off-center strikes happened when a planchet wasn't seated properly in the collar. These aren't theoretical, they're documented for 1944 D, and circulated coins became extremely valuable precisely because these errors escaped the mint. A collector in the 1950s pulling a 1944 D/S from circulation was holding a coin that, even scratched and toned, was one of maybe a few hundred known. Let's address the elephant in the room, condition. Our coin is scratched and toned, 2 words that usually kill value. But in the variety world, originality beats technical grade. Natural toning, the slow, chemical reaction of copper with the environment, can actually enhance eye appeal, giving a coin deep mahogany or rainbow hues that collectors prize. The key is whether it's natural toning versus cleaning. Harsh cleaning leaves hairlines and an unnatural shine. Original surfaces, even with scratches, retain cartwheel luster in protected areas and show depth. Professional grading importance can't be overstated here. A service like PCGS or NGC will notate scratched or details, but we'll also attribute the variety. For a 1944 D/S overmint mark, a details grade with a visible overmint mark still carries strong demand because registry set competition is fierce. Top collectors need that variety to complete their Denver sets, and they'll pay for the finest available example of the variety, not just the finest technical grade. That's why a VF Details scratched 1944 D/S can outperform a perfect MS66 red standard 1944 D. Provenance matters too. If a circulated example can be traced to a major collection or a dramatic discovery, the story adds value. So what are realistic market value ranges, depending on grade and variety? Let's be clear and market-based. A standard 1944 D wheat penny with the D mint mark in fine condition is 5 to 10 cents. In very fine, maybe 15 to 25 cents. Even in about uncirculated, $1 to $3. In mint state MS65 red, you might see $20 to $40 based on recent auction results. But add a major variety and the math changes. A 1944 D/S overmint mark in fine, even with scratches, has sold for $150 to $400 depending on how clear the under S is. In VF, $400 to $900. In AU Details, scratched but with strong overmint mark visibility, $1,000 to $2,500 is realistic based on past heritage and Stack's Bowers sales. A mint state example of the D/S can reach $5,000 to $12,000. The record-breaking auction results for this date are tied to the finest known D/S examples. An MS66 red 1944 D/S brought over $35,000 in 2008 because it was the top of the population report, had blazing luster, and two major registry collectors went to war over it. The price wasn't just for rarity. It was for finest known status, dramatic error visibility, and provenance from the Ducker collection. That's how registry set competition drives elite prices. When only one coin will do for the number one set, condition-dependent value can exceed all expectations. The 1944 D wheat penny reminds us of a fundamental truth in numismatics. A small 1-cent bronze coin can become a high-value collectible under extraordinary circumstances. It's not about metal content or face value. It's about history, a cent struck from shell casings in the heat of World War II. It's about rarity, not in mintage, but in survival with the right die characteristics. It's about demand, from collectors who will pay for the thrill of owning a dramatic error that slipped past inspectors. Even scratched and toned, with original surfaces and a clear overmint mark, this Denver cent reinforces how surface preservation, variety attribution, and story converge to create value. For new collectors, it's a lesson to look closely at every coin. For seasoned collectors, it's proof that the hunt never ends. And that's what makes this series so enduring. But don't go anywhere, because next time, we're looking at a wheat penny so rare, most dealers have never seen one in person. The 1943 bronze transitional error is up next, and its story might just be the most dramatic in all of US coinage. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, and tell me in the comments, have you ever found a 1944 D with something odd about the mint mark? And fourthly, the most valuable and expensive United States ultra-rare 1956 wheat penny with the Denver D mint mark is not the pristine, gleaming gem you might expect. It is often the one that looks ruined. Imagine holding a cent that is old, scratched, discolored by decades in the ground or a coffee can, its surfaces marred by circulation and time, yet capable of commanding extreme money under the right circumstances. Most people would toss it aside as worthless, a damaged relic of no consequence. That instinct is exactly why the rarest varieties survive unnoticed for generations. The shock begins here. In the world of numismatics, destruction does not always mean worthless. Sometimes the ugliest coin in the jar is the one that rewrites price guides, because condition is only one chapter in the story of value. The year 1956 was a moment of post-war confidence and quiet tension in the United States. The economy was booming, suburbia was expanding, and Dwight D. Eisenhower was running for re-election on a platform of peace and prosperity. Yet beneath the optimism, inflation was beginning to stir and the cost of copper was climbing steadily, putting pressure on the mint to stretch every cent. The Cold War was hardening, the Suez Crisis was erupting overseas, and domestically the interstate highway system was signed into law, transforming commerce and the way Americans moved. Coin production reflected this surge in activity. The mint was striking billions of coins to feed vending machines, parking meters, and a cash-heavy society that still relied on the physical penny for nearly every transaction. In that environment, a 1956 D. Lincoln wheat cent was not a collectible. It was a workhorse, minted by the millions and spent without thought. The 1956 D. wheat penny was struck at the Denver Mint, the facility that served the western United States, and marked its coins with a small, hand-punched D beneath the date. Official mintage figures are staggering. 1,098,201,100 cents rolled out of Denver that year, one of the highest production runs in the entire wheat cent series. Logic would say that with over 1 billion minted, no 1956 D could ever be valuable. But high mintage does not always mean low value, because survival in a specific state, combined with specific die characteristics, changes the equation entirely. By 1956, the Lincoln wheat cent was in its 48th year, only 3 years from retirement in favor of the memorial reverse. Dies were being used aggressively to meet demand, and the Denver facility was known for pushing its tooling to the limit. That industrial pressure is what created the anomalies collectors chase today, because rarity is not born from how many were made, but from how many survived with the right combination of history and accident. Consider the physical reality of a 1956 D cent that has lived for nearly 7 decades. Its surface is no longer red. It is old, scratched, its once sharp wheat stalks worn smooth by commerce, its fields marked by thin hairlines from pocket friction or a careless cleaning attempt long ago. Discoloration spreads in mottled browns and blacks, evidence of environmental exposure, perhaps from decades in a damp basement or buried in soil where copper reacts with minerals to form unpredictable toning. Corrosion may have eaten into the planchet, leaving microscopic pits. A lamination flaw might be peeling near the rim, where impurities in the alloy cause the metal to separate. The date itself could be partially damaged, the D mint mark flattened, but still identifiable. To the untrained eye, this is destruction. To the numismatist, it is biography. Each scratch is a transaction. Each tone shifts a silent witness to the coin's journey through the American century. Damage does not erase history. It records it. Modern collectors chase damaged, extreme, or visually shocking coins for reasons that transcend technical grade. There is a collector's psychology built on storytelling value and survival rarity that price guides cannot quantify. A perfect coin is a specimen. A brutalized survivor is a narrative. When a 1956 D emerges with deep scratches that somehow frame a dramatic die crack, or with terminal toning that highlights a repunched mint mark, it becomes unique. No other example exists with that exact pattern of wear. That uniqueness feeds niche demand among collectors who specialize in character coins, those who build sets not of the highest grades, but of the most compelling stories. Emotional appeal drives this market. The coin feels lived in, authentic, like a historic survivor that escaped the melting pot. In a hobby saturated with clinical perfection, imperfection becomes the rarest attribute of all. Within the 1956 D issue, errors, anomalies, and unusual traits are what separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Denver dies in the mid-1950s were prone to late-stage deterioration, producing coins with heavy flow lines, orange peel texture, and radial die cracks that look like lightning bolts across Lincoln's bust. Repunched mint marks are documented, where the D was punched into the die twice in slightly different positions, visible even through wear. Struck-through errors occurred when grease, cloth, or debris fell between the die and planchet, leaving soft, ghostly areas on the design. Planchet flaws from the wartime era of recycled metal still lingered, creating lamination peels and wood grain streaking from improperly mixed alloy. Environmental transformations add another layer. A 1956 D recovered from a house fire can exhibit wild red and blue oxidation, or one exposed to salt water can develop thick green patina that paradoxically preserves the details underneath. Even speculative but realistic possibilities exist, such as a 1956 D struck on a leftover foreign planchet or a transitional error on a wrong stock. Minting errors occur because the process was human, hurried, and mechanical. Die creation required multiple hubbings, and a slight misalignment produced doubled dies. Hand-punched mint marks depended on the engraver's steadiness. Wartime die stress had taught the mint to run dies until they failed, and that philosophy lingered into 1956. The auction market behavior surrounding such coins defies traditional logic. Social media and viral attention have created a new ecosystem where a single image of an ugly, old, scratched 1956 D with a dramatic die crack can ignite emotional bidding that has nothing to do with published price guides. Specialty auctions now curate extreme grade or lowball sets, where the goal is to own the most worn example of a date. When one of these damaged survivors is presented with cinematic photography, a compelling provenance, and a story of discovery, pulled from a roll after 70 years, found in a hoard, rescued from a flood, prices explode. Collectors are not bidding on metal. They are bidding on narrative, on the chance to own a one-of-one artifact. The traditional markers of value become secondary to uniqueness, presentation, and the competitive fire of registry set collectors who need every variety, regardless of condition, to complete their sets. Consider an extreme value scenario that illustrates the ceiling, not the floor. A theoretical 1956 D Lincoln cent, old and scratched, with deep circulation wear and environmental toning, surfaces with a previously undocumented major error. Perhaps a dramatic triple-curved clip combined with a bold repunched D over horizontal D, the variety clear despite the damage. It is authenticated and encapsulated as genuine details, environmental damage, but with the variety attributed. The coin is ugly by conventional standards, yet it is utterly unique. It enters a specialty auction with global live streaming, promoted as the ultimate survivor of the Denver Mint. Two high-end collectors, each building the #1 registry set of Denver wheat varieties, enter a bidding war not seen for a technical gem. The emotional competition, the viral attention, and the irreplaceable nature of the piece drive the final hammer to a shocking six-figure price. This is not typical value. The standard 1956 D in similar damaged condition remains a 3-cent coin. But under extreme conditions of uniqueness, presentation, and collector competition, the market has proven that it can and will pay extraordinary sums for extraordinary stories. Coin collecting is not just about perfection. It is about history, survival, character, and unpredictability. The 1956 D wheat penny with the Denver Mint mark, old and scratched, teaches us that value hides in places most people never think to look. Every coin that reaches your hand has lived a life, and some of those lives are worth more than any price guide can predict. So check your own coins carefully. Look past the dirt, past the scratches, past the assumption of worthlessness. Because somewhere in that jar, in that drawer, in that inherited folder, a historic survivor might be waiting. And the next shocking discovery could be yours.